Greetings, Earthlings. This is John Sheldon, and you're listening to Retrospectives with John Broughton on Casey Radio 97.7 FM.
Okay, just to get us started, it's been exciting times for you the last 12 months or so.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Yeah, it's getting. It's been very interesting to have James put out one song of mine, but then it was really amazing to have him turn around and do another one.
I guess we could call you a shining example of how persistence and self-belief can eventually pay off.
I guess you could use me for an example like that. Yeah, you could. I mean, I think I'm lucky, but the priority for me was always to just write really good songs, and then I had the feeling that something would happen if I came up with enough of them.
Was there ever any time along the way where you felt like just giving it away?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. I mean, your mind says one thing and your heart says another. I mean, your mind says that, in a way, you see so many people that that play music, and they go ways to make money primarily. Either they get out of music, or they music jobs that pay well, like they get into advertising, or all these things. And I would always be jealous of people who managed to make money. I had friends that did commercials and they made a whole bunch of money, and I was very envious because I was sitting here trying to write a pretty song, and nobody really was listening. But when I tried to get into those fields, my heart was never in it. I could never do a commercial. I just couldn't do it well enough. I would get sick, feel sick about it, and so my heart, I guess you could say, was always never gave up.
Look, reading the bio on your website, you describe songwriting as a craft that took a long time for you to learn. Can you pinpoint a moment where you felt you finally got a handle on it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think I'd been doing it for about 5 years, and I wrote a bunch of these nonsensical songs about animals. I wrote a group of songs. One of them was called Possum in the Kitchen. There was another one called Dirty Old Cat. I eventually made these into a tape, which I gave away to parents, friends of mine that had children.
Yep.
And but when I played a bunch of those songs, I realized that I could write songs. I just didn't know if I could write anything besides these sort of strange little children's songs. And but at least I could do that.
Now, they're just harking back to your early days. You played with Van Morrison there for a while. What stage of Van's career was that?
Well, I'm sorry to say it was kind of a low point in his career, because he had just put out Brown Eyed Girl, and he wasn't being paid for it, so he was struggling financially and struggling with management and record industry, and it was a good time for writing. He was writing a lot, and actually we did some writing together. But in terms of I guess you could say that right after I played with him, then he got signed to Warner Brothers, different record label, and then he sort of began ascending with a bunch of good records and Moondance and things like that. But when I knew him, it was tough going.
He has a reputation these days for being a difficult customer to work with. Were there signs of that way back then?
Oh, yeah. It was all there. No, I always had a great time with Van when it was just the two of us together. Right? You add more people in, it got more complicated, and he could be very how do you say, he didn't trust people very much, and A lot of my friends wondered why I was even playing with him. What are you doing playing with him? He's a real jerk. But I always got along with him great when it was just the two of us. I really liked him. I mean, he's a soulful guy.
Now, tell us about one of your early bands, Bead Game.
Yeah. Oh, that was a band that started in Boston. A bunch of students from the Berklee School of Music and some Harvard students from the music department started this band called Bead Game, and it was a very kind of heady combination of classical music and jazz and acid rock. And I auditioned for them when their guitar player quit. This was right after I quit playing with Van, and I got the job. I was kind of the kid in the group, and it was very challenging. It was sort of like playing with the Boston area version of the Mothers of Invention. It was sort of like they were always coming up with really hard things for me to play. But it was great for me.
That was a good musical grounding for you.
Yeah, and also there was a guy in the band named Ken Haig who was a songwriter, and he was a great songwriter, and I learned tremendous amounts of things from him about constructing songs and he's since gotten out of the music business a long time ago, but he was sort of a teacher for me as far as how to write a song and just finish it.
Was it after this point that you moved to LA for session work?
Yeah, it was. Things were kind of. Boston was in bad shape musically. There was sort of a thing about Boston sound, and where all these bands, including the Bead Game, got signed by all these major labels, and then it was sort of financially a bust because hardly any of these records sold very well. So Boston was kind of drying up, and I decided to go to a town where I could, try my luck. And it was L.A. That was the place to go.
How competitive did you find the scene there? Was it hard trying to get the work?
Yeah, because I didn't. What I didn't realize about L.A. was basically most of the work was in control of a very few people, just like anywhere else, I guess. And you had to kind of break in to these little circles. The people that were making all the records. There was one thing called they used to call the L.A. Mafia, which was David Geffen and the Jackson Brown crowd, and it was sort of like a folk rock scene that was going on. And most of the work was there. I did eventually get some breaks there and meet people, but by the time I did, I sort of wasn't interested in the music that was happening there anymore. So, which eventually is why I left there. Once again, my head said, "You got to stay here. You can make a lot of money," and my heart said, "Well, there's nothing going on musically. It's just not interesting enough."
I believe you weren't all that comfortable in the session environment either.
Well, that was the problem. I mean, you were always you never were allowed to really be creative. I mean, nobody wanted you to make up something new. They just wanted you to do something like somebody else had already done. Which seemed to me really counterproductive. And in fact, I think that's kind of what's taken over the whole business at large now. It's completely based on imitating something that's been successful.
Were you writing a lot of songs at this stage?
No, I didn't know how. I was a kind of a whiz kid guitar player. That was the deal. I could play. I was kind of I don't want to blow my own horn by saying this, but in a way, what I was at that age was I was really a brilliant guitar player, but very erratic and very sort of not a consistent performer that you needed in the recording studio. And I was always making stuff up and trying things and endlessly experimenting. So I didn't know how to write songs yet. What led me to write songs was that, once again, nobody was writing the songs I wanted to play the guitar on. So I figured, I wanted to try and see.
Just talking about your songwriting, are you writing differently now in terms of the writing process to, say, back in the earlier days?
Well, to me, just the way it has been all along. It's always an unfolding. It's always different. It's always changing. And right now, I feel like I'm writing right now a lot of songs that are good for me to perform. And I'm not thinking as much about who's going to do this song. And there was a period for a few years I would write a song and I would think, oh, that would be a good one for somebody else to do.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm working on this new CD, and I'm working on songs that are really fun for me to do, given the way I perform. So I think that's the focus I have right now.
Would you say you're a more prolific writer now? Can you turn them out at a good rate?
No, I mean, the last 10 years have been unbelievable. I guess when I started Blue Streak, since then, it's been pretty consistent. I would say it's always about the same. It works the same way. I don't come up with anything for a couple of months, and all of a sudden I come up with a whole bunch of stuff at once. It sort of works that way.
Now, I've got to talk about this most recent solo album of yours, Sometimes You Get Lucky. It's been locked in my CD player for the last couple of weeks. It's an excellent piece of work. I'd have to say the main strength of the songs, they really do stand up. What period of time do they cover? Those cover quite a range. There's a few songs on there that I wrote 7 years ago or 8 years ago, around the time that September Grass. I guess because September Grass is on there. I guess about half of them are from that period. They were songs like September Grass that I didn't really perform very much, but that I really liked, and I sort of cast the net back there and got those songs I'd written 7 years ago, and then I threw a couple of newer ones on there. And they were songs that I just didn't end up playing in the band very much, but that I really liked. So it is sort of a song record. Yeah. There's a great feel to the album too, a nice stripped down sound, which allow the songs to breathe, to stand or fall on their own merits, and in all cases they stand up. Were you very conscious of not wanting to overproduce the record?
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to. Most of that record was made at home. It was let's just take everything out that's not necessary. Let's just have it. So let's just hear the songs and let the songs do what they're going to do. And at the time, you don't really know if the songs are going to stand up or not. I only figure out much later if they're going to stand up over time. Now,
you say you're working on another album there at the moment. Is it going to be very much in the same direction?
Yeah, but it's a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit more. The drums, for instance, are going to be much more important. I've gotten a really great drummer named Dave Maddox, who was the drummer for Fairport Convention.
Oh, yeah.
And Richard Thompson and countless other people. And he's agreed to go in the studio and work with me in a couple of weeks. And so I think it is going to be a lot like it. There's going to be a lot of 12-string guitar on it. And it will still be kind of stripped down, but I think that it'll be a little bit more. This drummer will give it a little bit more energy as far as the playing goes. Mm-hmm. So, I don't really know how it's going to turn out, but I'm excited about going in with a musician like that.
How much emphasis do you place on lyrics in your songwriting? Because a lot of tracks, there's really nice turns of phrase going on here. There's Do you tinker around with the words a lot, or do you pretty much go with your first draft?
Well, my first drafts are usually about 75% of the whole thing. So usually, yes. Most of the stuff, most of it comes out really nicely, and then the editing is usually just to fix up the other 25%. Like, I've got to finish this verse, or I've got to do that. But the phrases just come out mostly. I mean, I'd like to say I work really hard on them, but I don't think I.
What about
working? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, working on lyrics or working on any of this stuff it's hard to know how hard you work on it. If you go, you might feel like you're working really hard for a while and you're not getting anything done, and then you'll be, I'll be in the car driving somewhere, and then the thing will come back to me, that what I was working on, and it will come back complete.
Yep.
So who was doing the work and when. Who knows?
Now, what about performing live, John? What's the state of your live work over there? Do you spend a lot of time on the road?
Well, I haven't been lately, but I'm talking. I haven't. I've gotten an agent, and we're working on doing some solo gigs around different parts of the country. So my idea is to finish this newest album and take that and this one that you have, and go out and do some things much further away from home by myself. Take the 12-string guitar and go. Yeah. So I'm planning on doing that.
Tremendous. And do you have a time frame in mind when you're looking at getting this album finished?
Well, I'd like to have it done by the end of October, because that's when I start going out and playing in other parts of the country. So that's the game plan on that one.
And it's not too far away then.
No, I was working on when you called.
Terrific.
It's fine, though. I like to take breaks.
Yeah. Okay, John, look, I won't hold you up. I'll let you get back to the work in progress. We look forward to hearing that one as well. Send us an email when it's ready. I might catch up with you for another chat, and we'll talk about that one as well.
Okay, John. It's a pleasure talking to you.
You too, John. All the best.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.